The sun hung low over the vast Texas plains, casting long shadows across the dusty road that wound through Harlan Ranch. Sarah trudged along the edge of it, her worn boots kicking up small clouds of red earth with each weary step. She was a woman in her late 40s, her face etched with lines from years of hardship, her clothes faded and patched. In her hand, she clutched a small burlap sack, empty except for a few crumbs. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and exhaustion pulled at her bones. She had walked for miles, seeking any kindness from strangers. Up ahead, the ranch house loomed like a beacon grand, with white pillars and a wide porch, surrounded by acres of grazing cattle and fields of golden wheat swaying gently in the breeze. Sarah paused at the gate, her heart pounding. She wasn't one to beg, but desperation had brought her here. Just some scraps, she whispered to herself, and a corner to sleep. She pushed the gate open with a creak and made her way up the gravel path, the evening air cool against her skin. John Harlan, the ranch owner, was a sturdy man of 50, with a weathered face and hands calloused from years of hard work. He had built this place from nothing, turning barren land into a thriving empire. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. Little Emily, now 8 years old, was the light of his life. Curly-haired, with bright blue eyes and a laugh that could melt the sternest heart. John sat on the porch swing that evening, sipping coffee from a tin mug, watching the horizon as the sky turned shades of orange and pink. The sound of footsteps drew his attention. He set down his mug and stood, squinting at the approaching figure. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he called out, his voice deep and steady, laced with the drawl of a lifelong Texan. Sarah stopped a few yards away, her head bowed slightly. "Evening, sir. Name's Sarah. I've been traveling a long way, wondering if you might spare some scraps from your table. And maybe a corner in the barn to rest for the night. I don't mean to impose." John eyed her carefully. She looked harmless, just another soul down on her luck in these tough times. The Great Depression lingered in the air, even here in the heartland, where dust storms had ruined crops and driven folks from their homes. He nodded slowly. "We got plenty. Come on in. Supper's just about ready." Inside the house, the kitchen smelled of fresh baked bread and stew simmering on the stove. Maria, the housekeeper, an older Mexican woman with kind eyes, set an extra plate without a word. Emily peeked from behind the doorframe, her small fingers gripping the wood. She was shy around strangers, but something about this woman drew her closer. Sarah sat at the edge of the table, grateful for the warmth. She ate slowly, savoring each bite of the hearty meal. Chunks of beef, potatoes, and carrots in a rich broth. John watched her, not prying, but curious. "Where you headed, Sarah?" "Nowhere in particular," she replied softly, her voice carrying the weight of unspoken stories. "Just away from where I was. Lost my home up north. Been walking south, hoping for better days." Emily slipped into the room then, her bare feet padding softly on the wooden floor. She climbed onto a chair across from Sarah, staring with wide eyes. "You look tired," the girl said simply, tilting her head. "Like you've been walking forever." Sarah smiled faintly, a warmth stirring in her chest. "I have, little one." "What's your name?" "Emily," the child answered, swinging her legs under the table. "And this is my daddy, John." "Mom is in heaven." The words hung in the air, simple and innocent. Sarah's spoon paused midway to her mouth. She glanced at John, who nodded solemnly. "Been 5 years now." Consumption took her. "I'm sorry," Sarah murmured, her gaze dropping to her plate. The room felt quieter, the only sounds the ticking of the clock on the wall and the distant lowing of cattle outside. After supper, John showed Sarah to the barn. It was clean and dry, with fresh hay bales stacked in the corner. "You can bed down here. There's a blanket in the tack room. We'll talk more in the morning, and maybe there's work around here if you're willing." "Thank you, Mr. Harlan," Sarah said, her voice cracking just a bit. As he turned to leave, Emily tugged at his sleeve. "Can I stay and talk to her, Daddy, just for a little while?" John hesitated, then nodded. "Not too long, darling. It's getting late." Emily scampered over to Sarah, who was spreading the blanket on the hay. The girl sat cross-legged, her nightgown brushing the floor. "Do you have any stories?" she asked, her eyes sparkling in the lantern light. Sarah chuckled softly, settling down beside her. "A few." "What kind do you like?" "About Mama's," Emily said without hesitation. "I don't remember mine much. Daddy says she had hair like mine, curly and brown." Sarah's breath caught. She studied the child's fascia, the curve of her cheek, the way her lashes fluttered. Something familiar tugged at her memory, like a half-forgotten dream. "Well," she began slowly, "once there was a mama who loved her baby more than anything, but times were hard, and she had to say goodbye to keep her safe." Emily leaned in, entranced. "What happened to the baby?" "She grew up strong and happy, with a good daddy," Sarah continued, her voice steady but soft. "And the mama? She never stopped thinking about her." The barn grew dim as the lantern flickered. Emily yawned, her head drooping. "That sounds nice," she murmured. Then, in a sleepy whisper, she added, "Good night, Mama." Sarah froze. The word echoed in her ears like a thunderclap in the quiet night. Emily's eyes were already closing, unaware of what she'd said. Sarah's hand trembled as she tucked the blanket around the girl, who had curled up beside her without thinking. John found them like that in the morning. Emily nestled against Sarah, sleeping peacefully. He cleared his throat gently. "She must have fallen asleep out here. Sorry about that." Sarah stood, brushing hay from her skirt, her mind racing. "It's no trouble. She's a sweet child." Over breakfast, the atmosphere was easy at first. Maria served eggs and biscuits, the steam rising in lazy curls. But Emily chattered on, calling Sarah Mama again as she passed the butter. "Mama, try these, it's my favorite." John's fork stopped. He looked at his daughter, then at Sarah, confusion knitting his brow. "Emily, honey, this is Sarah. Your mom is gone, remember?" The girl blinked, tilting her head. "But she is Mama. I dreamed about her last night. She looks just like the picture in the attic." Sarah's face paled. She set down her coffee, her hand shaking. "What picture?" John rubbed his chin, uneasy now. "There's an old photo up there, from before Emily was born. My wife, Anne, with her sister. They were close once, but her sister left town years ago, never came back." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Anne's sister? That was me." "Sarah." The kitchen fell silent. John's eyes widened, piecing it together. "You? But Anne said her sister died in a fire, up north." Sarah shook her head slowly, tears welling. "I didn't die. I had to leave. I was young, foolish, got into trouble, bad marriage, debts I couldn't pay. Anne helped me, but I was ashamed. When she got sick, I wanted to come back, but I thought it was too late. Then I heard about the baby." "Your baby?" Emily watched them, her small face serious. "Aunt Sarah?" "But in my dream, you were Mama." John stood, pacing the floor. The tension built like a gathering storm, the air thick with unspoken regrets. "Anne never told me the full story. She said her sister was gone for good." "But Emily, she's always had this locket." "It was Anne's, with a photo insignia of two women, arm in arm." He fetched it from a drawer, opening the tiny clasp. There they were, Anne and Sarah, young and smiling, the resemblance clear in their eyes and curls. Sarah touched the photo gently. "I gave her that locket before I left. I never knew she kept it." Rising tension filled the room as memories flooded back. John recalled Anne's final days, her whispers about family secrets. "She wanted Emily to know her roots," he said, his voice rough. "But why didn't you come sooner?" "I tried," Sarah admitted, her words slow and pained. "But fear held me back. I wandered, scraping by, until I couldn't anymore. I didn't know this was your ranch. Fate brought me here, I suppose." Emily climbed into Sarah's lap, hugging her tight. "Don't go away again, Aunt Sarah, or Mama Sarah. Stay." The gentle twist unfolded like dawn breaking. Sarah wasn't a stranger, but family lost and found. John's stern face softened. "Emily needs kin. And truth be told, I've been lonely here. If you're willing, there's room for you." "Not just in the barn." Sarah nodded, tears streaming. "I'd like that more than anything." Days turned to weeks on the ranch. Sarah settled in, helping with chorus, mending fences, tending the garden. The atmosphere shifted, warmer now, filled with laughter echoing across the fields. Emily thrived, calling Sarah Aunt Mama in her playful way, bridging the gap of years. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, John turned to Sarah. "You've brought light back to this place. Anne would be glad." Sarah smiled, peace settling in her heart. And I found home again. In the quiet moments, Sarah reflected on her journey, the hardships that led her to this door, the simple ask for scraps that opened a world of belonging. Life, she realized, had a way of circling back, mending what was broken. And as the stars twinkled above the Texas plains, the ranch felt whole once more, a family reunited, not by chance, but by the quiet pull of love.